even more exciting.
Steph Twell then introduced to the crowd. Personal best of 71.56. She's a little bit off the pace of the real speed merchants. Lily Partridge there, who was second in this race in its inaugural year in 2018. She's in sparkling form as well, although suffering a little bit of sciatica. Two Charlottes to bring you. There is Arta, third last year. Set a personal best in Barcelona right at the start of this year, 69.40, going really well. And then just to her right, the diminutive figure, small in stature but huge in talent, Charlotte Purdue, who won here last year, also set a personal best at the start of this year. These two Charlottes in terrific form.
They are exactly the ones to watch. But here we go. Here's the men's elite field as well, and we know the face on the right.
Yes, we do. Andy Vernon, European Championship medalist back in 2014. He's had his little spiky ups and downs, hasn't he, with Mo Farah over the years. Daniel Wanjiru, surprise winner of the London Marathon back in 2017. Lost out in a sprint finish to Mo Farah last year. Wilson Kipsang, do not discount this man. Former world record holder, a big stage performer, hugely charismatic Kenyan. But he will have to be on top form to beat this man. Britain's most decorated athlete of all time. And the cheer, well, tells you all you need to know. Mo Farah, hot favourite here. The time, not important. He said it's all about the performance and, of course, winning the race. Getting all the information from his coach, Gary Locke, of course, who's Paula Radcliffe's husband. Been with him in Ethiopia for the last couple of months. Get this race done, hopefully have a good race, and then back out to Ethiopia to complete his training block in time for the London Marathon on the 28th of April. Watch is poised, 15,000 runners, 13.1 miles, 4 boroughs, but of course in each of the races only one winner. And there are some of the 15,000 behind, and we are almost ready to go here for the Vitality Big Half, and we're underway here on the streets of London, this wonderful, wonderful capital city. Heading out, as Rachel was saying, along Smithfield towards Docklands, heading east with the Shard behind on what is a blustery day. We're expecting the winds to increase later during the day. Rachel, so many stories, so many personal bests, so many individual challenges ahead.
Yeah, it's not just about the elites here today. As we can see here, there's so many people taking part for all different causes, and we expect to see about 15,000 people taking to the streets of London, which is just so great to see. It's about half of what we'd expect in 7 weeks' time in the capital, but you can see there, they all look pretty excited. We had a few people waving to the camera, just getting into their stride, because like you said, it is 13.1 miles, and I'm so pleased to say that there's some blue sky, because we haven't seen much of that lately, have we?
We haven't indeed. Here we go. Here's the front of the men's race. Let's just pick out the man centre of picture, well known to Mo Farah. That is Bashir Abdi from Belgium. Like Mo Farah, born in Somalia. They know each other well. They've been training together in Ethiopia for the last few weeks. And Wilson Kipsang, right of picture with that very, very easily recognisable low arm carriage. He's always had that slightly different style. And Mo Farah just settling into this first mile. Along the bottom there you can see some of the other British athletes in action today. And of course we should mention, Rachel, that this race also doubles up as the British Half Marathon Championships. Yeah,
it does indeed. So whatever happens out the front here, it's looking like these four will probably be in contention for the top 3 spots. But obviously, if you're looking back for the GB athletes, they'll be looking to get those British medals on offer here today as well.
Well, let's just have a word about Mo Farah. Then last year, if you were with us, you may remember that Mo Farah just really just ambled round in the nicest sense of the word for most of the race, and then just reminded of his finishing speed, of course, on the track that he's so well known for, and just burned off to win by about 200 metres ahead of Daniel Wanjiru last year. What do you sort of see Mo Farah, his strategy being this year?
Well, Chris, we were just discussing beforehand. You said you thought he took it quite easy last year. You said maybe he was just testing the others. You said he kind of went for a few surges and then just tried to test his sprint finish at the end. So I'm not sure if he's going to play it like that. Obviously, he's got his training partner next to him there, like you just mentioned. Maybe they're going to kind of sit together at the front and just try and lead this one out and just see if the others go with them and just maybe just make his mark and say, this is how I'm running at the moment. This is the form I'm in ahead of the London Marathon. But right now they look comfortable. They've obviously just started, so I can't wait to see how it pans out.
Dow Griffiths just joining that group of 4. So we have a group of 5 in the early stages of the men's race. And they're further back. The club runners and the leading women. The diminutive figure there of Charlotte Purdue. She's only 1.53 meters, 5 foot tall in old money, but my word, she packs a punch, and she was a clear winner last year, wasn't she? Won by over 30 seconds, and that terrific personal best, Rachel, set in Japan at the start of this year.
Yeah, let's just mention them. So Charlotte, she set a PB of 69.46 in Japan, and that did actually put her to 9th, I think, on the all-time list. And then you had Charlotte Arter. She went out a few weeks later, and she set a PB of 69.40 in Barcelona, and that then put Charlotte Arter up to 8th on the GB all-time half marathon list, then pushed Charlotte Purdue back down to 10th. So those two, under a 70-minute half marathon, is absolutely great for these two British women.
Steph Twell there, centre of picture in the green, will be testing herself against those two informed Charlottes. And, well, she's unbeaten so far, actually, in 2019. Steph Twell got married towards the end of last year to Joe Norwood, coached now by Jeff Whiteman, who's on PA duties here at the Vitality Big Half today. But that's quite a difference in stature, isn't it, there, between Charlotte Purdue and Steph Twell. Steph Twell, who's not a particularly tall athlete herself.
Absolutely not. And I think, you know, at this stage, it doesn't really matter your height. We know what both of those athletes can do. Charlotte and Steph, they know each other so well. Inside out, I'm going to say. They've been teammates for years. Like I mentioned, when they're on the start line at the Aldershot, Farnham and District Club, both used to be coached by Mick Woods, have both gone their separate ways now to be coached by different coaches. One out in Australia, obviously Charlotte is, and Steph is still based here in the UK. But both will be trying to test each other, which is so great to see how they've moved on in their careers now.
So the women making their way down the highway towards Docklands. We'll keep you up to date and pick out one or two of the landmarks. Of course, there's one of the most famous in the whole of London, the Shard, the tallest building still in the whole of Europe.
I wonder how many people from the masses here will get their phone out and try and take a selfie with the Shard in the background with the blue sky. It would look pretty great for Instagram a little bit later on, won't it?
Well, if you haven't been up there yet, I would certainly recommend it. It's awesome views, although it may be rocking towards the top on a blustery day today. So here's the course map in full. We've started a few minutes ago then out along the highway. We're going to go through the Limehouse Link Tunnel out towards the Canary Wharf area, where all, of course, the big banks and the financial institutions are. This is the London Marathon course in reverse, if you like, through Canary Wharf and then back up down Narrow Street with its famous pubs, along the highway on the other side, and then through Wapping High Street, wending our way towards Tower Bridge at just over halfway, which we then take so onto the south of the river, down Tooley Street into Bermondsey, past Southwark Park, skirting and following the River Thames, leaving it through Surrey Quays, past the tube station there, onto Lower Road, into Deptford, and then of course the iconic Cutty Sark awaits the winners after 13.1 miles. Britain's last remaining T-Clipper. I was there on Friday interviewing Mo Farah. It is a majestic backdrop with which to finish this wonderful race. So back into the early stages of this race in the Limehouse Link Tunnel. And Mo Farah, centre of picture, looking pretty good. Daniel Wanjiru just slightly ahead. Pace looks good, and good to see Dow Griffiths there, keeping pace with these four other athletes.
This is quite the contrast, isn't it, when they go through this Limehouse Link Tunnel? It suddenly goes really eerily quiet. There's no crowds in there. There's no music in there. And actually, it's a bit of a shame to hear, wasn't it? There's going to be no music out on course today or around the course because it's so blustery. Well,
that's, yeah, particularly the big festival that was planned for Greenwich Park, I'm afraid, has had to be cancelled because of the weather. Here are the women just behind. Charlotte Arter there, who turned 28 yesterday, so happy birthday belatedly to Charlotte Arter in the centre of picture.
And we can see Lily Partridge just behind Charlotte as well, and Steph. So 4 of the British athletes currently battling it out together and looking good.
So Steph Twell looking pretty comfortable there. Has been in action on the cross country and on the road so far in 2019, and has won in both her outings so far. Well, let's just pick up with Steph Twell. As we mentioned, she's been out and about talking to school children out on the streets of Wapping early this week.
I'm here today at St Peter's School in Wapping, and I've been here to inspire some kids to get really active ahead of the big half race. I joined the children in their assembly today to give them an experience of my training leading up to the big half, but also I'm joining them for their daily mile and to see how fit they've been keeping before the race next Sunday. I'm really excited because preparation's gone well. I know there's a real healthy competition ready to compete against at the race itself. So yeah, things are looking good, and I just want to get on those roads of London and really take in the atmosphere for sure. I've varied my distances leading up to this race, mainly to test my different tools. So I've dropped down to 3 kilometres, but also have been working hard on the hills and the mud over the Scottish cross country. And I really feel like that benefits me to kind of be prepared for whatever's thrown at me in the race. It could be a change of pace from my other competitors, or it could be a really even-paced race where people are just going for fast times. So I think you need that ability to still have different gears in the race, and that's what I'm trying to prepare for in this last week now. I think the race will be a really tough race, and that's because we've got the previous winner, Charlotte Purdue, who has run a fantastic time out in Japan of a sub-70 performance. But equally, we've got the competitiveness of Charlotte Arter, who again has just run, I believe, second faster than Charlotte, still running 69.40, I believe, which is spectacular times for British females at the moment over this distance. So my PB is a little bit off that, and I'm hoping to be joining and holding on to the coattails of them if I can. And we've also got lots of marathon runners who are well experienced in the roads of London to really come out and shine before their preparation for the big one in April. I will always go into a race to win, so definitely if I can be competitive and find a way to win, I'll definitely be running home to that Cutty Sark finish line as quickly as possible.
Steph Twell looking and sounding in good form. Of course, she made her full marathon debut towards the end of last year in Valencia, ran a very creditable 2:30, which she's convinced she can improve on that, and of course will be trying to do so in London on the 28th of April.
Yeah, I'm sure she will. I think that's it with the marathon, isn't it? It's just getting a bit of experience under your belt. You're never going to go out and run a really great marathon the first time, even though obviously 2:30 was. I think it's about just seeing how your body copes with it, because it's such a long way than she'll have ever ran before. She'll have done half marathons. She's obviously super experienced on the track in 1,500 metres as a junior, and then stepping up to 5K. So she'll be really testing herself here today with these 2 athletes behind her. And she only has a PB of 71 minutes, but that was set about 9 years ago. So I don't think we can really count that as her PB right at this moment.
Well, here's the leading group in the men, and it's Daniel Wanjiru, who's just stolen, what, a metre or so, but these 5, including Dowie Griffiths at the back in the yellow vest, keeping pace so far. Mo Farah just ambling along a Sunday morning run. He'll be maybe putting in 1 or 2 surges. We mentioned last year that he did exactly that from memory after about 5 miles, just to test the rest of the field. We're just getting limited split times. Apologies if we're not bringing you accurate splits, but the split we had for the first mile was 4:25, which is pretty breezy actually, Rachel, and that would put them well under 61 minutes. We're not likely to get a very, very fast time on this course today. There are lots of twists and turns.
Do you think here, Chris, that Mo and his training partner there, Bashir, they would work together on this one? Or do you think when it's race day, it is very much each man for himself up there?
So just coming out of Limehouse Link Tunnel. Wanjiru then continuing to push the pace. Here we are approaching the whole Canary Wharf area, and there'll be some wonderful sights of skyscrapers and the banks and the financial institutions. So Bashir Abdi, training partner of Mo Farah. Won silver in the 10,000 metres outdoors in Berlin at the European Championships last year. So he's a formidable athlete. And these three are just starting to pull clear a little bit of Wilson Kipsang.
Is that quite surprising at this time in the race for Kipsang to be already off the pace?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. We don't really know much about Wilson Kipsang's build-up to this race. He's been training in E10 up in the Great Rift Valley, where he lives with his wife and 4 children. He owns a hotel and a huge resort, as many of these top Kenyan athletes do. But these three have got a decent lead here. Abdi, Farah and Wanjiru. Wanjiru, of course, who went toe-to-toe with Farah in this race last year. So is that a decisive break very early on in this race, as early as the 3rd mile?
Well, it seems to be at this stage, doesn't it? We've got Dowie Griffiths back there in the yellow vest, and then we have Wilson Kipsang alongside him, and it doesn't look as if they will pull anything back. I know it's really, really early on at this stage, but to have a lead of what looks from this angle, it's hard to say, about 10 or 20 metres already is quite significant to get back, even in a half marathon, because these three, they're not going to let off.
They're certainly not, no. And really this race all about Mo Farah, as we saw at the top of the programme. Testing himself. It's always good to get back into racing mode. And one of the things that Mo Farah, Rachel, was saying is how much he misses the track. And of course there's lots of speculation about what he will do in Doha later this year at the World Championships. Of course, he officially retired from track athletics after the World Championships in London in 2017. But the lure of the track, he admits that he misses the buzz of the stadium, of course. And with all due respect to racing on the roads, by definition, he's only racing 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, and just mentioning about the track, I think that might have something to do with how well Laura Muir has been running. Obviously, if any of you are athletics fans out there and you watch the indoors and Laura Muir there taking double gold, as Mo Farah has done so many times, he actually said, you know what, I was a little bit jealous of Laura's achievements and how much attention she got for those gold medals there, and that's something maybe has drawn him back, thinking, you know what, it hasn't really moved on. Maybe I can have another go at the track. We know he doesn't really want to run the marathon in Doha, so 10,000 metres on the track, yeah, he probably could win gold. It hasn't moved on much. He might like to fancy his chances there.
I think he would, and of course that would act as a springboard for potentially doing an autumn marathon, maybe in Chicago again, where he won last year, or even New York, which is at the beginning of November. But Mo Farah, also when I spoke to him on Friday, he was talking about how important the London Marathon, the Virgin Money London Marathon, is to him. And in fact, he said he would value winning that race, the London Marathon, as highly as winning Olympic gold or world titles on the track. And that is huge praise indeed. He's been associated with the London Marathon since he was a child. He did the mini mile, of course, there many years ago. And so to win the London Marathon one day would be a huge achievement for him. And he's looking good, isn't he, here? Farah took an overnight flight from Addis Ababa on Thursday, arrived back in the UK in the early hours of Friday morning. He came straight to talk to us, the reporters and journalists at the Cutty Sark on Friday morning. Hadn't even seen his wife and children by then, but he's had a day and a half with them, and will be heading back out on Tuesday or Wednesday, back out to Addis to hook up again with his coach Gary Loch and complete the final training block before London.
It might seem glamorous, mightn't it, when they win the gold medals, but in reality they are out training away from their family abroad, doing 130 plus miles a week.
Yep.
Without any home comforts, really. They live their very basic lifestyle, so it's not really all the glamour that people might think it is.
It certainly isn't. In fact, the place that he's training in is, I've been lucky enough to go myself, in Soluta. It's about 30 kilometres outside of Addis, at altitude, of course. The weather, of course, is absolutely fine and lovely, but you're absolutely right. Lots of sacrifice, lots of early starts. Just a small hint of a trip there from Mo Farah. Just keep an eye on that. But you're right, yeah, conditions very basic indeed. He was even telling me that actually sometimes the water coming out of the showers is orange. That tells you all you need to know. But it's basically that ritual lifestyle for several weeks of run, eat, sleep, and that's it.
Let's hope he has a good water filter out there, because orange water, I'm sure that won't do the best things for his stomach or his teammate there's stomach either. So Mo, we hope you've got a great water filter system out.
Yeah, he's made of stern stuff, is Mo Farah. And there's a wonderful saying in Swahili, actually, that we talked about. He often quotes, "Hakuna Matata," which means no worries, take it easy. And he's just loves it out there. For all the sacrifices of being away from family, those are the ideal conditions in which to prepare for races like this. Well, the leading women still going well. And Steph Twell is in there somewhere. All the main women. Charlotte Arthur, we've got a faller there. I think one of the men has just taken a tumble, but straight back up on his feet, which is good to see.
It's hard to make out the leading ladies there. We've got Arthur there at the front in the black vest, the vac kit there, and Steph Twell at the side of your picture in the green strip. And then at the back of your picture as well, Charlotte Purdue, she is there. She's tiny, she's such a small athlete, but she is running well. And for the ladies here to run with the group is actually quite good, because it will help them. And as it is pretty windy today, it will also act as a bit of a windbreak for them in a way, which will allow them not to take away their energy like it may do these guys at the front. So they're acting as that windbreak for the girls, just tucked in there nicely over the first few miles of this half marathon.
Well, one or two club vests that people watching might recognise. A Highgate Harrier vest there, Phoenix from Brighton as well. Lots of very, very good club runners here, and as Rachel rightly says, it acts as a really important windshield on what is a very blustery day today. We are expecting gusts later on in the day, actually, of 50 or 60 miles an hour, and very sadly, the big festival, which is part of this whole day and weekend of running and celebrating, getting people into running, the festival itself, or the music part of that, has had to be cancelled, regrettably, because of safety concerns of the temporary structures that were being put up. But of course, this is the centrepiece, the big half. We've also got the little half taking place, which is exactly the smaller race. We've got a mile as well. We've also got a relay, a whole package of races taking place on a busy day.
Yeah, it's so exciting for this to be brought to London. We're obviously calling it the community half marathon here, because it's going through 4 different boroughs that we've mentioned already. So really trying to integrate everybody and get them really excited about running. But back to elites here, we can see how much Steph's ponytail there is swinging in the wind, and her preparation has been a bit different to the other females in this race leading up to this one. She's been battling out on the cross country like she has done throughout her junior years. She's been very successful on the cross country. She was 3 times European junior cross country champion, and she actually took the Scottish cross country title over the 10k this year. It actually means she's the first female woman to win both the English and Scottish titles on the cross country. So she likes the mud and the hills and the undulating terrain of the cross country, but now it's the flat of the roads for Steph this morning.
20 minutes into the race then in the women, and well, are we seeing a few developments here in the men's race? Daniel Wanjiru there pressing on the pace with Abdi for company, and just a little bit of a gap opening up on Mo Farah in 3rd place. 21 minutes into the race there, and they're coming through down narrow street, and Mo Farah, well, he wouldn't want that gap to get any bigger at all. But Wanjiru there, very aggressive running from the 26-year-old. No relation, incidentally, to the former Olympic champion Sami Wanjiru, the late, great Sami Wanjiru, who sadly died a few years ago. But Bashir Abdi, 30 years old himself, sticking to Wanjiru like a limpet. And Mo Farah just starting to just show signs there very early on in this race, barely 20 minutes in, of just a little wavering in the arms. How are you reading that, Rachel?
Yeah, and for Abdi to be looking behind as well and kind of questioning where Mo is, because I'm sure he, as his training partner, would be expecting him to be on his shoulder, or not, if not leading it, kind of maybe also shows that this isn't where he should be and this isn't expected. Training has obviously been going well. Like you said, you spoke to him just yesterday. I don't think Mo would like to be what looks about 5 to 10 metres back from this angle at this stage in the race, but you know what Mo Farah's done. Sir Mo Farah, there's no point discounting him at the moment, but let's just see over the next couple of minutes if he manages to just join those two at the front of this pack again.
Well, you can read so much into just holding his stomach there. I wonder, again, it wouldn't surprise me if there's been a little bit of perhaps food poisoning or something. That's all it takes, isn't it? Just something different. Climate, the overnight flight, just adjusting maybe to the water again. He's been in very, very different conditions, remember, for the last few weeks. Went out on January the 18th to Addis. But this is not the position we would expect to find him in at this stage of the race. In terms of where we are, we're between miles 4 and 5. And we will be rejoining the highway. Just gone through 5 miles there in just under 23 minutes. So a lively, breezy pace here. And Abdi sticking to Wanjiru. Wanjiru, who for many people hadn't really done very much after winning the London Marathon back in 2017. He also won Amsterdam, a pretty high-profile race, but not in the same category, with all due respect, as London and the World Marathon Majors. And really has rather disappeared since then. This is his 26th half marathon for Wanjiru. And Mo Farah will want to make sure that gap doesn't get any wider.
And now we're just back on the leaders of the women's race there. Steph Twell, as we mentioned, she is at the front of your screen there. I'm just trying to look in amongst the men to see if we can see any of the females. Yeah, at the back of your picture there, we did have Charlotte Purdue. She's still clinging on to that group, and Charlotte Arter there on your right. So those three, which we mentioned in the beginning, in the ones to watch, are still there. It's just probably worth noting that Lee Partridge, she is not still in contention at this point in that pack. We'd have maybe expected Lily to be a bit further up. I spoke to her yesterday, and she said that she felt she was in PB shape, but has been having problems with some sciatica. So she's trying to get that sorted, and said if it was sorted for this race, she'd expect to be running maybe a PB here, but we can't see her at this stage. So it is, at the moment, all about Steph Twell in the green kit there, running strongly. Charlotte Purdue, who has set a PB recently in Japan, she is still in that group, as I think Charlotte Arter is. Those two doing extremely well. Charlotte Arter there, yes, just off the back of Purdue in the back of the shot. Charlotte really made her breakthrough, I guess, on the roads last year, getting her first GB vest in the half marathon championships in Valencia. So she was part of that team with Charlotte Purdue, and she said it's always great to get a GB vest. She's had a few on the cross country, but breakthrough season for her last year, that was 2018. So those two know each other well from the road race they've been doing, especially over the half marathon teammates, but now really going head to head here.
Well, Mo Farah, let's try and close in on what his face looks like, because you can read so much into how the shoulders are. The shoulders look pretty good still, but he's not exuding positivity. Just running his own race at the moment. Don't think there's any real cause for concern just yet. He just seems to have closed the gap there on Wanjiru and Bashir Abdi. Of course, he knows him so well. He was speaking very affectionately, actually, about Bashir Abdi when we spoke to him on Friday. There is Wanjiru in second place. Abdi, so many similarities. Somalian-born, like Mo Farah. Abdi finished third behind Farah in the Great North Run last year in 2018. Of course, the Great North Run, very popular with Mo Farah as well, a 5-time champion there. The race in September. But Mo Farah, yeah, I think has just closed the gap, not letting Wanjiru and Abdi get away too much. So we're approaching, rejoining the highway. And there is David Weir leading the way in the men's wheelchair race. Remember, he had to settle for second place last year, which I know rather hurt him. He was behind Marcel Hoog there, the Tower of London, of course, and he's about to enter Tower Bridge.
John Boyce Smith there in second, and he is also part of the David Weir Archer Academy. So that is David Weir's academy down in Kingston to try and get more disability athletes, more wheelchair athletes into the sport. And there's a couple more wheelchair athletes in the race as well today. The youngster we mentioned at the beginning, the 17-year-old Eden Rainbow Cooper, she'll be looking to go well here today. She's part of that academy, and she won in her debut half marathon in Manchester last year in a time of 63:37. But back now to the men's race.
Well, Mo Farah, any concerns that we or he may have had, I think have been dispelled there. He's just close that gap right up on the leading two athletes. Just going back to our discussion about the possibility of him returning to the track. A lot of people will maybe be confused by that, Rachel, because he was saying goodbye, wasn't he, in great fanfare as they passed through 6 miles in 27:35 unofficially. So still pressing on the pace quite nicely. A lot of people will be surprised to even hear us talking about Mo Farah returning to the track. What do you think might be his thinking there?
Well, like we were just mentioning a little bit earlier, he has said openly that he doesn't think that track running, and especially 10K, has moved on much since he left it at the back end of 2017 when he won the World Championships in London. And Mo Farah wants to win. You know, he wants to go out there to win races. He's not going out there just to take part. And I guess he'll probably be looking forward to the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. That's not too far off now, about 18 months. And so maybe in Doha, back end of September, October, if he could get a win out there on the 10K. We know he won't want to do the marathon out there. It's going to be the first time that the marathon is ran at midnight, so it's a little bit unusual, to say the least. So I think, yeah, it doesn't really matter maybe going back a little bit, because he's not regressing at all. He'll just go back and test himself. Good for speed. And then maybe just go out and run an autumn marathon, like you said, and then he's in the mixture of both.
Well, here's the women's race. There's Charlotte Arter in 3rd place. Looking reasonably okay. A little bit of stress on the face there. It's perhaps sometimes dangerous to read too much into those facial expressions, but she's not looking 100% comfortable, Charlotte Arter. She's lying in 3rd place, and quite a gap as we just peel back through our motorbike camera, and that is quite a sizable gap to Charlotte Purdue, the defending champion, of course, from last year, who ran so brilliantly and won by over 30 seconds last year from Lily Partridge. She's in 2nd place, doing what Charlotte Purdue does so well. But at the moment in 2nd place, but looking fresh. And quite a contrast, actually, in terms of facial expressions, Rachel, between Charlotte Purdue and Charlotte Arter.
But you can see Charlotte Purdue there. She is all out running on her own, which will make things a little bit tricky for her, as we are mentioning again the windy conditions. We saw Charlotte Arter there. She did have someone for company, so she could sit back a little bit behind the chap in front of her. And Steph here is completely in a pack, so really quite protected. But Charlotte there, a little bit further back, she is out in no man's land at the moment, so want to kind of maybe try and join this group just for a bit of protection and company, just to help her along a bit, because she's running about 30 minutes at the moment, so almost halfway, not quite, but she'll want to try and get in this pack just so it makes things a little bit easier for her.
Yeah, I would agree. Steph Twell laid down a marker here in the early stages of this race, 30 minutes into their running. They'll be heading back and shortly preparing to take Tower Bridge. David Weir, meanwhile, we're hearing is approaching mile 9. Here he is, way out in front on his own. He's got the streets of London, not for the first time, at his mercy. He's now on the south side of the River Thames, making his way down Tooley Street and Brunel Road towards Rotherhithe and Surrey Quays. We've got a 3-horse race here in the men's race, and for me, Rachel, I have to say I'm very surprised by how quickly Wilson Kipsang, an athlete of his calibre and his record, has been dropped here.
Yeah, exactly, but we did mention earlier as well that we don't know really what he's been up to. He's someone that doesn't particularly open up like these chaps do on things like social media and tell the world what he's doing. So he was a bit of an unknown for us. We had to kind of predict what we thought might happen. We had him as the one to watch, but right now it seems like the medals are going to come down to these 3 athletes, and we have 2 training partners in there from Mo Farah's new training group as well, hasn't he? He's calling it the Mundane training group, which is called SIR, I think.
Yes.
SIR group, which he has set up. There's about 8 runners in that group, including Abdi there, who's just on the left of your screen. So a bit more like a brotherhood, isn't it? They're very much friends when they're training and like to have fun when they're running, but he did say, in his own words, when it comes to race day, it's each man for their own. But I love that. He's just saying to the crowds, come on, shout for us, give us a boost here, which I love. Absolutely
right, yeah. He said he loves the crowd, loves racing in London, of course, which is now his home again after living over in the States for all those years under the tutelage of Alberto Salazar. That chapter of his life is gone. He's now based in London with his wife and 4 children. and absolutely loves racing on the streets of London. But it's that adulation that he's only tasting a few times a year, and that's perhaps, as we were saying, part of the thinking of maybe returning to the track. There's nothing like a stadium atmosphere to get the juices going. Through 7 miles in 32.50, and they're about to, little check of the watch there for Mo Farah, they're about to swing left, having gone through Wapping and take Tower Bridge. Well, back to the wheelchair races. Mel Nichols, the first mention of her, 41 years old, and Mel Nichols starts that gradual climb onto Tower Bridge.
And this is her debut in this event as well, the Vitality Big Half. So she'll be testing herself on this course, the 13.1 mile course, for the first time, and it seems to be going pretty well for her at the moment. And now back to the females, the elite females as well. We can see Steph Twell, the leader. She's been leading throughout the race so far. She looks strong.
Onto Tower Bridge, of course. Normally they would be crossing Tower Bridge from south to north. In the London Marathon, they're just behind Mel Nichols, who's just ahead. And, well, this section of the bridge will be so familiar to Mo Farah. Daniel Wanjiru, of course, will have very happy memories himself of this bridge. Inextricably linked to the London Marathon, one of the main landmarks on the Virgin Money London Marathon course. And they'll be crossing that bridge in 7 weeks' time.
It's a part of the course whenever I've run the London Marathon I just can't help but smile at, and it makes you go, it's halfway, it's fine, and then you suddenly think, I've got to do that again. I've just done 13.1 miles, now I've got to run that another time, which it makes you smile but also makes you grimace a little bit inside. So I've done the London Marathon now 3 times.
Snap.
3 times, and I love it. I want to go back for more, but I work. I seem to work every single time the London Marathon's on now, which prevents me from going back.
You missed a trick. I also work at London Marathon Day, but I work for the London Marathon, so I'm covering the event. So it's the next best thing, isn't it, to actually running it, is to being involved in either commentating or reporting on the event itself. And this, very much, this of course, this race, the Vitality Big Half, also organised by London Marathon Events. It's one of the main planks in their portfolio of races now, and this a huge indicator, not just for the athletes but also for the organisers as well, how things are going for the London Marathon itself in 7 weeks' time. So the men coming off at Tower Bridge, they'll take a fairly sharp left onto Tooley Street. Here are the women just behind them. They've come through Wapping as well. And nice to see Steph Twell spending some time with local children, taking part in their daily mile with them, which is terrific, and talking about her training plans and her training runs. And you know, this, just to come back to the main theme, Rachel, of this race today, it's all about community running, isn't it? Getting people who wouldn't normally, ordinarily think about running, getting them interested in going out and putting their shoes on.
Yeah, exactly. And people like Steph are so approachable as well as athletes and as people. And for her to go down to schools and talk to them a bit, and it was nice to see there on the video a little bit earlier that she was running around the playground as well. And if even just one of those children thought, you know what, I'd like to give it a go and maybe take part in the mile around Greenwich Park. That was free today to go and take part in that, just around the park, so not even on the roads. You know, it'd be great to see more people, more children getting involved and maybe being the next Steph Twell one day. So Steph Twell leading the way in the women's race. Still more than half of this race to go. Nikki Emerson then in the women's wheelchair race, 2nd place. Yeah, Nikki there, she finished 3rd last year in the Vitality Great Half, and its debut of the race, which was last year, of course. So she was 3rd last year in 67.08, and Nikki does have a half marathon personal best of 63.03, so a little bit off personal best. But this course is a little bit tricky to navigate. It's quite twisty, it's quite turny, it's quite a few cobbles, so not the best course maybe for a wheelchair athlete, which has been mentioned in the past, but still such a great course, and obviously a trial course for the London Marathon in exactly 7 weeks' time.
So the 3 still continuing to dominate. I think it's safe to say now that the medals will be shared out between these three. They've been out on their own for quite some time now. If you're just joining us, you're very welcome to our coverage here on the of the big Vitality half, the big half, going through 8 miles in 37:35. So they're into the second half of this race. Mo Farah, who had let Abdi and Wanjiru, the former London Marathon winner, get away. We reckon a gap of, what, about 20 or 30 metres a little while ago, but just the slightest hint of some discomfort, potentially, not confirmed, on Mo Farah, but he's very much back in that pack, and those three dominating this race. And Wilson Kipsang, the other former London Marathon winner, has been dropped and is way, way back off the pace.
There we can see Charlotte Purdue in the shot there, and she's currently running in second place in the women's race, coming on to Tower Bridge in any moment's time. Charlotte, they're running good in second, but is quite a way off Steph Twell, her former teammate, who is currently sitting in first place, and she is sitting in a pack as well. But Purdue, she obviously won this race last year, so she is the current reigning champion of this race, and she will be looking to defend it, but right now it doesn't look as if she will be doing that. It needs something to happen, maybe just somebody there, the guy in the blue, if she could just maybe latch onto him, and that would help her to be pulled back into this pack where we can see Steph Twell there. And both these athletes, they love a bit of cross-country. That's what they've been doing a bit in the build-up. Charlotte, she took the Australian cross-country honours earlier this year. It was doubled up as the World Cross-Country Trials for Australia. It was great to see her dominating that field there and winning that 10K on the country. Spends a load of time in Australia now, doesn't she, Chris?
She does. She's actually got almost the perfect setting here, Steph Twell, completely surrounded by male runners, acting as a windshield on a very windy day as they just come down off the main apex of Tower Bridge. And anybody who's run in either direction off Tower Bridge will remember that there's quite a rise, isn't there, to the centre of the bridge and then down the other side. Steph Twell then laying down the marker here in the women's race. In the women's wheelchair race, still Mel Nichols there leading the way ahead of Nikki Emerson. We saw a shot of her just taking Tower Bridge. So Mel Nichols, 41 years old, a very versatile wheelchair racer, leading the way in the women's wheelchair race. Still very difficult to choose between these three, all looking very, very fresh indeed. Of course, they'll have all had the benefit of coming down from altitude with those extra red blood cells that transport the oxygen around the system. It's a wonderful feeling for anybody out there who's ever run at altitude. I'm not sure whether you've had the chance, Rachel, yourself to do that, but it is incredible the rush you get when you come down off altitude and start then running at sea level.
No, as a former 800-metre runner, we used to go to Stellenbosch in South Africa instead. That's where Dame Kelly Holmes used to train, and we used to go into her kind of setup in Stellenbosch, the university town there, about 30 minutes from Cape Town, and that's where we used to stay at the university and train, and with the beautiful backdrop of the mountains there, but never got the chance to go up at altitude, whereas some of my old training partners used to. But these guys certainly would have done that. Looking comfortable, has great benefits, as Chris just said there.
Well, I have to say, Daniel Wanjiru looking very, very relaxed and composed. He hasn't really changed his tempo at all. He's just hit the front early on in this race. Abdi in second place, and Mo Farah has been quite content just to be on the back of this trio with all the other athletes. We saw Dowie Griffiths early on trying to keep pace in the early stages with Wilson Kipsang as well, but those two athletes have been well dropped. So a 3-horse race in the men's.
And back to the females again with Steph Twell there in the front of your picture. She looks like she's working hard here, but Steph always looks like she's working harder, so that's nothing new there. And it's just great that she has some company in the race, unlike Charlotte Purdue does. And this might be quite comfortable as well for Steph, as she has been testing herself out on the cross-country. This will feel much nicer to run on the firm, hard surface of the road. It may feel like she's running much faster here today, but Steph is an athlete that's always going to be driving hard with her arms. She likes to work hard, and she said in the pre-race interview as well, she's out here to win. Steph doesn't start a race unless she thinks she's going to win it, and she obviously feels confident. She has a PB in the half marathon of 71:56, but that was set 9 years ago, so let's just discount that straight away, because she was about 2 minutes behind Charlotte Arter and Charlotte Purdue in their PBs. They ran sub 70, so Steph there was 71:56. She wasn't looking at that at all, but she has a great 5K, great 10K times. She's a former medalist in 1500 metres in the Europeans. She's won a Commonwealth Games bronze medal as well, so she has pedigree, Steph does, and she's making that transition now to the roads, which is great to see.
It is, through 8 miles, and it's still looking good. And that gap, you can just see to the left of picture there, the small diminutive figure of Charlotte Purdue, the defending champion from last year. And it's difficult to see from our pictures head on here with the foreshortening whether that gap between Charlotte Purdue and Steph Twell leading the way there is getting any larger or not. Steph Twell still heading the way, and Charlotte Purdue there still in isolation will be looking to get onto the coattails of one of those male athletes, as Rachel was suggesting. It can be a very, very lonely place. She's still looking pretty comfortable there. There is our defending champion from last year in terrific form, Charlotte Purdue, 5 foot tall, and with that new personal best set in Japan in January. Just getting news from the organisers that, yes, as we feared, the whole of the big festival, I'm afraid, has had to be cancelled because of the high winds, which are already pretty blustery, but are going to get stronger and stronger throughout the afternoon. So as a very sensible, although regrettable, safety precaution, the big festival with all the music in Greenwich Park, I'm afraid, has had to be cancelled for today. So if you're thinking of making your way down there, please think again. But of course, still lots of racing and lots of different races, Rachel, to come and cheer about.
Yeah, there are. There's a lot of different races going on, so it's not just about the elites. We can see Charlotte Purdue there second in the women's race, but we have the Vitality Little Half. That's a 2.4 mile race around the same course, obviously not the full length of the course because that is 13.1 miles. So starting at Southwark Park and then finishing at the iconic Cutty Sark, where the 13.1 half marathon race also finishes. Then we have the Vitality Mile, and that's a free event making its debut this year, and the course is just around Greenwich Park. So if you're new to running and you want to pop down and have a race there, then that is free to do so. But we have Steph Twell there still leading the female race at the front of your screens.
Well, the men, Farah just starting to take closer order, and for the first time just making his presence felt there, just coming up onto the shoulder of Daniel Wanjiru. He was saying on Friday he's got enormous respect for both Wanjiru and for Wilson Kipsang, the two former London Marathon winners. They've achieved something that so far Mo Farah hasn't, and of course, well, we'll be hearing from him later on, I think, but Eliud Kipchoge, of course, who is the undisputed best marathon runner of all time, I think, in most people's eyes, not featuring here today in this half marathon, but will be featuring in London in 7 weeks' time. And here is Weir. Here is David Weir on his way to victory here. The Cutty Sark coming into view for the first time, and David Weir, who had to settle for second place last year, has cruised home. 51:11 the winning time, and that is a useful workout for David Weir, the 8 times London Marathon winner. And David Weir is our first winner of the morning here in the Vitality Big Half.
And then back to the 3 leading runners in the men's race. We've mentioned them before. We have Sir Mo Farah at the front there, alongside his training partner, Bashir Abdi. And then just at the front of your screens, Daniel Wanjiru. He was runner-up in last year's debut Vitality Half Marathon. Mo Farah just out sprinting him there to win by 3 seconds in the end, so the smallest of margins in a half marathon. Those 3 looking pretty comfortable at the beginning there, and we mentioned that 2 of them are training partners and run together, and if you have a look on YouTube after the race is finished, you can see just how fun they make training at such great intensities look. Hey, Chris?
Very much so. I mean, the grueling 120 to 140 miles a week that Mo Farah was saying he's doing, you have to vary it, you have to mix it up, and he was saying that he's really enjoying. I think it's always refreshing, isn't it, to have a change of coach. Of course, the main reason for the change of coach is because he was moving from the track to the road. But working with Gary Locke, which was, let's be honest, a potential risk for both of them. They didn't really know each other that well. Of course, Paula Radcliffe was the common denominator, but they'd never worked together before as coach, and it seems to have gone extremely well indeed. Gary keeps a relatively low profile, lets Mo do the talking with his racing, and he's looking much more comfortable now, and it'd be interesting to know when we speak to him after the race. I know we're going to try and grab a word with him after the race, whether he did go through an uncomfortable period in the third or fourth mile.
For him to just be holding his stomach like he was at a third or fourth mile, maybe also is an indicator of that, and maybe he's showing the screens and just saying, you know, I'm just going through something right now. I'm just showing you I'm all right. I'm doing okay. I'm just going to sit back here. I'm confident. I know what I can do. These boys know what I can do, and they were actually having a little look back and I guess questioning where Sir Mo was, because they would have expected it to be like it currently is. Well, maybe with Wilson Kipsang as well. He's someone who is in this race who we haven't mentioned that much because he dropped off these three pretty early on, and that was something that we wouldn't have expected from him. He's obviously the former world marathon record holder, so we'd have expected maybe him to be a bit further up here. He was with Dowie Griffiths, who we don't know right now, but we probably expect them to be maybe sitting in fourth and fifth, and Dowie there fighting for a British medal.
Yeah, plenty to play for the British athletes. Mo Farah just starting to make that long raking stride count there. He's just having a little look, giving Daniel Wanjiru the eyeball there, just saying, are you going to take it on, or are you going to get me to do the hard work? Charlotte Purdue then in pursuit of Steph Twell, still in second place, but she is starting to make her way through the gears here. Here is Simon Lawson. Simon Lawson then in second place behind David Weir. That's a sizable gap. The winning margin of David Weir, well, over 3 minutes. Simon Lawson, his long-term rival. And here we are, John Boy Smith. John Boy Smith from the Weir Archer Academy, taking a creditable third place against the backdrop of the iconic Cutty Sark. Here, these pictures live in Greenwich for you this morning on a Sunday morning. Decent crowds have come out. So just under 55 minutes for John Boy Smith in third place. So we now have our top three in the men's wheelchair race: David Weir, Simon Lawson and John Boy Smith.
And then it looks like in the women's race here, Steph Twell is still leading, but Charlotte Purdue has gained some time back there. She did what we thought she should do. She joined in with that group of men just at the back of your shot there, so had a chance to run with some people for a short space of time, and now there is no one between her and Steph Twell, her former teammate, so she will have her eyes set firmly on Steph Twell. And I managed to grab Charlotte for a few words a couple of days ago, and she said that training has been going great, and as I just mentioned, she's just got back from Australia, where she trains her coach and her group out there in Melbourne. It's much nicer to train out in Australia at this time of year than it is in this country, so I would recommend doing a Charlotte Purdue and going out to the other side of the world. And yeah, we know she set a PB recently on the half marathon in Japan. She's happy out there, it's great weather, so yeah, Charlotte, don't discount her. There's not a great gap there, maybe about 20 metres, that is all, and that has definitely reduced in size over the last mile or so.
We have a race on here on the streets of London this Sunday morning. Twell, of course, unless she's getting information from her sources, will not know, I'm sure, how small that gap is now.
This seems pretty similar to what happened at the Great South, actually, last September, where Twell was leading, and then Alicia McColgan, who was in that race, it was about the gap of this size then, and Alicia actually reined Steph Twell in there to grab the victory. Not gonna say this is gonna happen here. Don't want to jinx anything from Steph Twell, but she is working hard at the front there, and she is now in no man's land, like Charlotte was just a few moments ago. And you can actually hear Steph there. I'm just gonna be quiet for a minute. You can hear how hard she's breathing.
We certainly can, but certainly the momentum all with Charlotte Purdue, of course, and Charlotte Purdue has the obvious advantage of seeing how far behind Steph Twell she is. We're pretty sure Steph Twell doesn't know that yet, and there'll be that telltale feeling, that dreaded feeling of feeling somebody brush past you. Now, will she do what all good track athletes have to do when you're closing the gap? Carry on and keep going.
If I saw Charlotte come past me now, I'd just try and sit on her for as long as possible. You know, Steph probably has greater speed. She's a faster track runner than Charlotte was. She's great over the 1500 metres, so she has that track speed. So they know each other super well. They used to train together for years. So when Charlie, which looks like in a short space of time, comes past Steph, if she can, if she's got anything left, she will just like try and sit on Charlotte Purdue and go with her and use Charlotte to her advantage.
Well, the moment has come. Charlotte Purdue has eaten it. Then the first glance, Steph Twell, if she didn't know already, now knows that she has a race on. And Charlotte Purdue, well, she is doing the classic track advice of just sailing past, so she's not interested in sitting on the shoulder. And I think this is some aggressive running here from Charlotte Purdue into the last, 15 minutes or so of this race.
Yeah, and Charlotte Purdue as well, if you notice, she doesn't look ever too far ahead in a race. She's always said, I just look a couple of metres ahead of me because I don't really want to see what's ahead. She knows what's ahead. She's still got a couple of miles to go, but she'll always look down and just focus on exactly what is in front of her. And right now she has a guy in front of her, so she can just focus on him and let him take her along a bit. And Steph, she knows what's happened now. She's got to find something and dig deep to stay up with Charlie. And we don't know yet how far back Charlotte Arter is, who was in third place. So Charlotte Arter could be doing the same kind of thing. We know what good shape Charlotte's in. She's 8th now on the all-time British rankings in the half marathon. She's run a 69.40, so she's in the shape of her life, as is Charlotte Purdue here. And Steph Twell, she's looking good, but is currently in 2nd place, and she's got to find something here to get back up with Charlotte Purdue there at the beginning of your screen.
Charlotte Purdue then, last year's winner, has hit the front and is pressing on here. And we have a Steph Twell sandwich between two Charlottes. Purdue in the lead, and we think Arter still in 3rd place. So a race on our hands here, but still can't get the proverbial cigarette paper between these three. Mo Farah looking much more comfortable. Left of picture, of course, Sir Mo Farah with that long, raking, instantly recognisable stride that was so iconic on the track, and on 1 or 2 occasions caught him out by being tripped, of course. A lot of people not expecting to have that long stride.
Is this a bit of deja vu here, Chris? What happened last year? For those of you who didn't watch the Vitality Half Marathon, it came down to a sprint finish then. Does it look like it's going to come down to a sprint finish right now as well?
I think it could. Last year, of course, there were just the two of them. It was just Daniel Wanjiru and Mo Farah. Wanjiru there, right of picture, still in there. Abdi, though, who didn't run here last year, still very much in contention. And the three of them, well, they've got the streets of London, certainly East London, at their mercy. And we're down to the last 5 minutes of racing. Anything under 61 minutes, I think, would be pretty good on this course. The winning time last year was 61.40 by Mo Farah. So the men approaching Deptford. Here's Lily Partridge. Now, we haven't really seen much of Lily Partridge unofficially in 4th place, possibly 3rd. I think that's a sight of Charlotte Arter in just behind. So I think we can now say that Lily Partridge is in 3rd place with Charlotte Arter just in the black, just disappeared, back of picture, in 4th. So just to reprise, in the women's race, Charlotte Purdue leading the way now from Steph Twell in 2nd, Lily Partridge in 3rd, and Charlotte Arter back in 4th.
Yeah, it's great to see Lily in 3rd place because she's having problems with a bit of sciatica problem in her back, and that prevented her from running what she hoped would be a fast time in Barcelona earlier in the year, where Charlotte Arter set that really rapid 69.40, but we're back to Steph Twell now in 2nd pace. She's still working hard. She's really putting everything into this now. You can hear her breathing, you can hear the hard work she's putting in, and look at that gap that Charlie Purdue has just managed to draw out ahead of her. That looks now to be about 30 metres or so there, and she's got company, Charlotte Purdue has, in the form of males though, which is great company to have at this stage in the race when she's approaching about the hour mark, just under.
Charlotte Purdue then on course to retain her title from last year. This is the second running of the Vitality Big Half. Charlotte Purdue, whose winning time was 70.29. The men then, are they winding up for a sprint finish? And you have to say, if it does end up being a sprint finish, you would have to back Mo Farah every day of the week. Wanjiru not known for his sprint finish. Abdi, of course, will know all about Mo Farah. We're into the last 3 minutes of the race here. In the sunshine, the wind has just abated slightly, but it'll be back with a vengeance later on. And Mo Farah, last year, as Rachel was saying, it was a sprint finish. It came down to the final 200 metres, half a lap of the track in old terms from Farah's point of view. It's a question now, Rachel, of when will he make his move?
So we've got a couple of minutes of running left. I don't think he'll do it anytime soon. I think it'll probably be similar to last time. Yes, he wants to have a convincing win. If he can win here, he'll want to do it convincingly to set his stall out for the London Marathon in 7 weeks' time. He'll want to just make everybody else notice him and say, yeah, Mo Farah's in good shape. He's confident. And this race here will also be a great stepping stone for that race, because it gives him a chance to get a feel for the roads here in London, as it will for Bashir there in second, his training partner, who is also going to take to the streets of London in 7 weeks' time. He posted on Instagram, my first time out in London, 2 times to go.
Well, let's just cut away and see the winner of the women's wheelchair race, and it is Mel Nichols coming home. Huge smiles. So we have David Weir home winning the men's wheelchair race, and Mel Nichols, the versatile wheelchair racer, winning the women's. So now into the streets of Deptford with literally less than 2 minutes of running to go, and the pace quickening all the time. Just worth reminding that Farah's winning time last year in this race 12 months ago, 61.40. He was saying really the time actually irrelevant. It's all about the performance. How did I feel during the race? Did I hit my markers? And now the sprint is on. Janil Wanjiru is starting to work very, very hard indeed. And that long, loping, comfortable style of Farah just starting to wind things up there. And the crowd, you can hear, starting to encourage. And the race for the line is on. Abdi centre picture. He's not showing any respect to his more senior training partner, Mo Farah. They know each other so well. Downhill a little bit. Wanjiru just coming off that bridge, the railway bridge there. And three places, one winner only. And Mo Farah, you would have to back him from here as the clock ticks round into the second hour of this race. A minute and a half or so you would have thought of racing left. Just another check of the watch from Mo Farah.
Check of the watch, but no need to check the watch. It's not about timings here today. His PB's passed. It was 59.22, Mo Farah's PB. Now it's all about racing. Who is going to make that move first? No one's really done it yet. Here it looks like Mo's about to make a move now. Him and Wanjiru are really going for it, have left his training partner already.
Is this the decisive break then from Mo Farah? Abdi, left of picture, looks to have been potentially dropped for the moment. Wanjiru steps on the gas as well. Farah, centre picture, exactly where he wants to go. In track terms, they're into the final lap, and Kipsang will loom into view. What has Mo Farah got left? Here they come in Greenwich. Kipsang just around the corner, lights out, the handbrake's off, and it's a sprint finish for the line. And Mo Farah hits the front, says, come on, what have you got? Mo Farah, winner last year, and it'll be Mo Farah once again. Keep an eye on the clock, it is quicker than last time, 61.14 unofficially. Mo Farah coming through ahead of his training partner, Bashir Abdi, and Daniel Wanjiru, who was second last year, has to settle for third on this occasion. 2 wins out of 2, Mo Farah is back, and that all bodes well for the London Marathon in 7 weeks' time.
That was just great there to see from Mo. When he makes his move, he makes his move. Maybe he was taking a few pointers from Laura Muir on the track. That's exactly what she did there, but makes it look comfortable. This is his home soil. He's not going to let anybody take a win away from here on the streets of London without a fight. And I love that he's just saying to his training partner, come on, where are you? Are you going to run with me? You know I can do this. Come and join me in a sprint finish. And he obviously couldn't. That was Bashir Abdi going second there. But now back on to the women's race, and it is still Charlotte Purdue leading there out in front. She's been running now for 1 hour and 2 minutes. Her winning time from last year was 70 minutes 29 seconds. Not sure if she's running the same time, the same kind of time as she was last year. The wind is playing havoc a little bit with our splits, so we can't give you an accurate rundown of her splits. But Charlotte there looking great, looking in good form. She'll just be concentrating on herself now, just there wiping some sweat away. She doesn't look like she's sweating at all. She is just focusing on herself, just going through what she wants to achieve in her mind, just counting down the moments on the track until she crosses that line, and will want to cross that line in first place and defend her title she won last year.
Worth remembering that her winning margin last year was over 30 seconds, and it could be even more that this year if she continues to impress as she's doing here. It's been a really measured, calculated performance from Charlotte Purdue. Didn't panic at all when she saw Twell make the early running. She was isolated, wasn't she, for much of the race. There is Dewi Griffiths, who's just over the line in 4th place, so a creditable 4th. No news so far of Wilson Kipsang. Last we saw him was at the 3-mile mark, was dropped very, very early on, the former world record holder. But a very impressive, very mature performance here from Charlotte Purdue, who is on her way to retaining her title here. Once again, the time not important, but 70.29 for those of you who like to compare races.
And Charlotte just saying she's just kind of fitting this race in. Oh, there's Wilson Kipsang there, finishing in what we think is 6th position.
Wilson Kipsang then, the former world record holder, former world marathon winner, coming home in, well, by his own standards, a rather disappointing 64 and bits. And, well, that's a terrific scout for Dewi Griffiths to have come ahead of the former world record holder.
I was just mentioning there that Charlotte Purdue, she said that this is just a race to fit in along the way on her way to running the Virgin London Money Marathon, which takes place in 7 weeks' time on this same track. She said it would just be nice to have a feel for London again, the streets of London, just ahead of that marathon, which is her main aim for this season. That's what she was saying ahead of this race, and she likes running here, and it's a strong British field, so it's nice to test herself against former teammates, and she's surely testing them right now.
She certainly is. She also says on her website she's an absolute obsessive coffee drinker, loves her coffee, very fussy about the way she has it. Looks as though she's had a couple of stiff espressos this morning before taking to the streets of London, because she's put in a terrific last half of this race. It's undoubtedly run a negative split. We'll bring you confirmation of that as soon as we can. Apologies for the relative lack of split times we're bringing. I think the wind has had something to do with that this morning. But she could be heading for not a personal best, but certainly a course record here in the Vitality Big Half. Very impressive running by Charlotte Purdue, preparing for what will be her 7th full marathon. Still relatively new to the distance. She didn't finish in Berlin in the marathon last year at the European Championships. The conditions, you may remember, were absolutely brutal last summer in Berlin. Temperature reaching 38, 39 degrees on a couple of days. She wasn't the only one to fail to finish that particular race, but very different conditions here in early March in London. Blustery, not particularly cold, but you can see and probably hear from our microphone there, the wind once again playing its part. And that can be energy sapping. It is energy sapping.
It can be, but it just depends which way it's blowing. I don't know which way it is blowing in the final stages of this race, because if it is behind her and pushing her on, which seems to be the case maybe by the look of her hair, then it could actually be giving her a little bit more energy right now, because it is about 23 miles an hour out there, the wind, and it's about 9 degrees, so temperature-wise, great for a half marathon. Wind-wise, not so great. But Charlotte here, she's ran many a half marathon. She knows this course super well from both this race last year. There's just a choir in the background, which I'm sure will be giving her a little extra boost. If when you're running a race like this, you have a chance to acknowledge a crowd and actually register that there is something going on by the side of you. Charlie, she is a determined young lady. She'll know what she has to do now. She'll be digging deep, and again, she probably doesn't know how far second place athlete is behind her, so she can't afford to let up at all, and we think it's probably still Twell, but we'll get confirmation on that as soon as we can. And if that is the case, that is a Also an Aldershot, Farnham and District athlete behind her. 1, 2 and 3 actually. Aldershot, Farnham and District athletes, I believe. And then possibly Charlotte Arter still sitting in 4th, but Charlie here, she's on 1 hour and 7 minutes, going strong, looking controlled. She is wanting to defend this title, and she seems to be doing so in style right now. Great preparation for the London Marathon.
Yes, it is. She'll be very, very pleased with this. All those hours of training over in Australia, and of course all the weather benefits that come with being able to train in warm climates at this time of the year. She's not the only one, of course. A lot of people will be away out of the UK on some sort of winter training camp somewhere. But Charlotte Purdue has judged this to perfection, it would appear, and is in the latter stages of this race, coming into Deptford.
Running out on her own at the moment, but that'll be nothing unusual for Charlotte. She'll have done many runs on her own throughout her lifetime, throughout her athletics career, so running on her own and not in a pack doesn't matter at all for Charlotte.
And far easier, of course, to run on your own in the latter stages once you know or you suspect that the race is won than earlier on. It would have been much tougher for Steph Twell, knowing that perhaps Charlotte Purdue and the others were gaining on her. That proved to be the case. So Charlotte Purdue very much on her way here to a second successive victory. She's starting to make this event her own, the Vitality Big Half, and it all bodes well for the London Marathon, the Virgin Money London Marathon on the 28th of April. Almost all of the main elite athletes will be taking part, so this a really important staging post, an important warm-up race for the London Marathon. And you'll remember, and I remember, how important those halves and those 20, 30k, the 20-mile races as well that we used to do.
Absolutely, we'll get to some of the masses in a little bit, and some of them might even be trying for the London Marathon in 7 weeks' time, and they might be using this as, like the elites are, as a bit of a training race here today, just to test themselves out over the half marathon distance and get a feel for this course, because running around London is great. We can see even the crowds here today is nothing like it will be at the London Marathon, but there's still loads of people out supporting these athletes, and Charlie will notice that, even though she doesn't acknowledge them like you and I would, Chris. We'd give them a bit of a wave maybe and want them to cheer us on, but Charlie, she's focused, she knows what she's doing, and she's nearing the finish line right now.
Yes, she is. 70:29, her time from last year, into the final few hundred metres. And Charlotte Purdue on her way to a second successive victory here. It's been a really good disciplined performance, and there she is, the final turn into the centre of Greenwich. You can see the tunnel there that goes the footbridge under the Thames, the Greenwich Foot Tunnel, and here she comes into view. Charlotte Purdue then, winner in 2018 in the inaugural Vitality Big Half, will retain her title. Just outside the winning time from last year, Cutty Sark looms into view. Small in stature, only 5 foot tall, but it's a big, big performance for Charlotte Purdue in the Big Half. I'm the number one, she says. 70:38. It's just a smidgen outside of last year's winning time, but Charlotte Purdue makes it 2 wins out of 2 in the Vitality Big Half in blustery conditions, and now she can smile, and now she can celebrate.
Oh, she'll be super happy with that win, and it, like you said, it just gives her the confidence now heading into London. And here comes Steph Twell in that silver medal position in this race and in the British Championships as well, because that is also what this race is about. It's not just about the big Vitality Half, it's got the British Championships as well, and Steph there battling towards the finish line.
She's done well. She's rallied well as Steph Twell in second place. Led the race for so much of the race, but there she is, taking the applause of the crowd. She's an instantly recognisable face, of course. She's been on the British circuit for so long, on the track, of course, cross-country, and here she is, second in the Vitality Big Half. 71:32 the winning time, just under a minute behind Charlotte Purdue. So we have 2 runners home in the women's race, and here's third, and it is Charlotte Arter who takes third place. So the top 3 home in the women's race.
Purdue and Arter there, mirroring their positions from 2018. So mirroring the positions for Charlotte Purdue and Charlotte Arter, and then we have Steph Twell there taking the silver medal position, and Lily Partridge there crossing the line in 5th place. We did just miss the 4th place athlete coming past. We'll just try and grab who split up Charlotte Arter and Lily Partridge, but some great running there from the females and great running from all the athletes in these super windy conditions there on the finish line. But those 3 medal winners looking really pleased with their performances here in London today.
Well, the elite all pretty much home now, and now it's a question of looking at club runners and the community runners, some of whom we heard from at the top of the programme, all running for different reasons, different causes, different objectives, and they continue to stream over Tower Bridge at just over halfway, passing from the north of the River Thames onto the south bank into Rotherhithe and on towards Cutty Sark and the finish line in Greenwich.
Here we go. This is my favourite part of the race during the London Marathon, and these guys look pretty happy to be running across Tower Bridge as well. This is the point when you can get some great photos. Usually in the marathon, the photographers, they stand on the little island in the middle of the row, and they kind of grab you as you run past, and that's when I try, if I'm not running for a time, try to get a pretty good picture. There we go, a few waves there from a couple of the runners just testing themselves out over this half marathon course around the city today. It's great to see so many people enjoying it as well, not just running but enjoying it, because it isn't the best weather. It'd be nice if it was sunny, but the skies have turned grey over Tower Bridge there. But they look like they're having fun. A lot of people there noticing our camera and giving us a wave, which is nice to see.
So they continue to stream over Tower Bridge, and their confirmation of the results today. Mo Farah winning for the 2nd successive year ahead of his training partner from Belgium, Bashir Abdi. Daniel Wanjiru, who was 2nd last year, former winner of the London Marathon, having to settle for 3rd this time. And Charlotte Purdue retaining her title from last year, impressively just outside the winning time from last year, ahead of Twell, who made the early running, and Charlotte Arter coming home in 3rd place to match her result from 2018. Wheelchair results, David Weir going 1 better than he did last year, coming home ahead of Simon Lawson, his long-term rival, and John Boy-Smith from the Weir Archer Academy, coming home in exactly 55 minutes to take 3rd place. David Weir's time, incidentally, a course record, beating last year's winner Marcel Hoog's time by some 20 seconds.
Well, that's